You are probably asking the wrong questions and it's making everything worse. You think you're trying to understand someone else in a conversation, but often it just comes across feeling like an interrogation or a trap and adds fuel to the fire. And then you sit there wondering how this conversation got so out of control and why it didn't go the way you envisioned. Now, don't get me wrong, questions are awesome. They help us understand people, diffuse conflict, and avoid misunderstandings. Sometimes I feel like a bit of a broken record because people will ask me interpersonal communication skills questions, and almost always the answer ends up being some version of ask questions, then listen. But that keeps being the answer because it just works if you do it right. And there are absolutely right questions and wrong questions. So here are some simple guidelines you can follow to ask better questions, especially when conversations get tense. The first and most important rule is this: don't ask questions that you believe you already know the answer to. Questions are about curiosity and understanding someone else. So if you already know the answer, why are you asking? Usually, it's because we're trying to catch someone in a trap, force them to confess, or prove our own point. Usually, these questions are about winning a conversation, and that's never the goal, or it shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to learn, not to win. And this is so important because one of the largest barriers to a healthy conversation is defensiveness. And questions that feel like they could be a trap put up the defensive barriers immediately. Most people have a bit of a sixth sense for sincerity. Wow, that was hard to say. And if something feels even just a little bit off, the shields will go up. But true curiosity rarely triggers defensiveness. So in addition to only asking questions you don't already know the answer to, the rest of these principles are designed to make sure you convey sincerity, not suspicion. We'll start with the simple one, just to get it out of the way, which is, of course, the open-ended questions are generally better. You get more information, it opens up a conversation instead of shutting it down, and you really never know where it might lead. Of course, there are exceptions to that. There are plenty of circumstances where a simple binary yes-no question is perfectly acceptable, like, do you have any food allergies? But as a general rule, and especially in tense, heated conversations, open-ended questions are better. And almost immediately here, we run into a problem. Because there aren't a lot of other really consistent rules about asking good questions. Because most of the principles come down to wording and delivery. And so many of the rules that people talk about are riddled with exceptions. For example, one rule is that asking questions with why feels confrontational, but asking them with what feels curious. Like, why are you always late? Versus, what's keeping you from getting here on time? And that is a decent rule. Because of the way English works, we tend to word what questions less aggressively. But it's far from universal because the tone and delivery and exact wording matter so much to the way people perceive questions. I could very easily invert this rule and ask a curious, sincere why question and an aggressive, confrontational what question. Like, why did you feel drawn to that candidate? Versus, what made you vote for him? In that instance, the what question feels way more judgmental and is going to make someone feel more defensive. Now, if you really want to come across as non-confrontational, instead of focusing on wording like what versus why, you can just word everything like an absolute maniac. Now, disclaimer, this is not a good tip. And it isn't backed by any science that I know of. Nor is it something that you should probably consider doing most of the time. But there is a disarming power to saying things weird. For example, if we go back to our food allergy question, you could, instead of asking the simple binary yes or no question, just say something like, what's your relationship with gluten? Now that's not the normal question. People don't usually word it that way, and so someone is much more likely to laugh and not get defensive. I don't know if I would say it's a better question, but it is a funnier question. And sometimes that is useful. Feels like there should be another video in the future about using humor to de-escalate difficult conversations. So I'll add that one to the to-do list. But all of those different examples should make it fairly clear how much the wording and delivery of a question affects how it's perceived. So the closest thing I've been able to come up with for a universal rule on how to ask good questions is just to practice. And this is gonna sound dumb, but you can even practice out loud. Have you ever walked through a conversation, an important conversation, in your head to make sure that you know how it's going to go and that you're prepared, and then you get to the conversation, you say something out loud, and immediately you're like, oh crap, that sounded way better in my head. It's not just you. Sometimes things just don't come out right. And that's the difference between what are you doing and what are you doing? So practice how the words come out, especially if there's a difficult conversation you know you need to have, or a difficult situation that shows up frequently in your life or job. For extra personal discomfort, you can even record yourself saying the things and asking the questions, and then watch that recording back and cringe, because watching a recording of yourself is always awkward. But it will also let you feel what it's like when you ask those questions. It'd be pretty easy to see like, ooh, if someone said that to me, would I feel defensive? Of course, the problem with this tactic is that it only works if you're able to prepare. And difficult conversations, high conflict moments often show up unannounced. So you can also evaluate after a conversation. Reflect on what you asked, how you asked it, and how it went. What was the other person's response? So then you can learn for the future. You've probably had moments where you've said something, asked a question, made a statement, and you immediately saw the other person just like shut down, react weird, and it's like, oh crap, what did I say? That's a good moment. The oh crap, what did I say moment is a time for you to log and say, let's look back at that and see why it went wrong. So then you can do better. Because really the only long-term sustainable solution is to practice wording and delivering sincere questions. So much that it becomes a habit. It becomes the default way that you talk. But there's one last secret principle, which is knowing when not to ask questions. Because even though questions are awesome, and I love them, sometimes the best question is no question. And I actually started listing out all of the times that it's best to not ask a question, but then it started getting really long. So I cut all of that out in editing and thought maybe that would also just be best to do a whole nother video on. So for now, just sometimes it's best to hold off on a question if someone is clearly not having a good time, crying, feeling deep emotions, or if it's starting to feel like an interrogation. Also, if you've just asked a question and the person isn't answering, that's not the time to ask another question, that's the time to be quiet and listen. Just let them have a minute. For now, that's it. Go forth. Get curious to avoid being confrontational, and then send this video to your partner who definitely needs to hear it. But make sure you send a nice message so they know you aren't being passive-aggressive about it. And together, we can make the world a better place. It's so annoying, and I hate saying this, but if you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful at all, which it probably was because you stayed this long, just press the subscribe button. 97% of people who watch my videos don't subscribe, and I don't care that much about the number, but other people do. And I need it for clout. It's dumb, and it shouldn't matter, but it does matter, so just hit the button. Thanks.